I also wanted to start by really thanking the RU team for hosting this and for making all of these connections possible to begin with. Natalie Anglais, Rachel Gugelberger, and Lulu Meng, they were all three so helpful throughout the planning and the setting up and helping us to meet each other and bringing us all together. And it was really an amazing team to work with because, I mean, I don't think any of us had ever done something like this before, and everybody was dispersed in completely different places around the world, and yet it was almost seamless bringing it all together. So we really want to extend a big thanks to the RU team. As everybody here probably knows, coronavirus has really defined the moment. In March of this year, RU's artists and curators in residence pretty much all had to return home because of the looming threat. The three of us, Julia in Austria, Isabella in Italy, and myself in New York, also returned to our homes and began residing in different countries. So we decided to ask the 11 artists who had been in our cohort to send a postcard from the confinement of their own homes for RU's first virtual exhibition. And we're really excited to bring that to you today. Isabella Indolfi will say something about the theme of postcards.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Andrea. The Postcards from Home is about home and journey. And in fact, even though postcards have gone out of fashion, they still remain a nostalgic symbol of travel and homesickness. And they are still a quick way to communicate and to connect people with each other. So in this situation, we thought that postcards were, for this exhibition, a metaphor that serves for visual communication and to, you know, that can crosses time and space. And also we can finding ourselves in you know, and I don't know if can you hear me? Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, because it says that my connection is unstable. So, so the postcards that we received from our artists do not depict tourist sites nor represents their geographic location, but they instead, these postcards express a hope, a wish, or a state of being, as we suddenly find ourselves confined in our narrow homes and countries and relationships. So everything is happening in the within the limit of 2 meters or 6 feet that separate us from the rest of the world. And in this big picture, we curators, we found a lot of topics. And maybe Julia can introduce these topics that we worked on.
Yes, thank you. So the journeys that these postcards represent are no longer the exploration of an exotic place, but of something much more intimate and introspective, of something that happens within the limits of our studio, home office, or even on our balconies. So what these postcards represent are explorations of our immediate environment as if it were an unknown place. Walls that previously protected us might become an unbearable cage. We long for serendipitous encounters. We communicate in strange contexts through images. We lament previous states of our own homes. We hold politicians accountable for our well-being. We appreciate everyday sounds that are normally a nuisance. We keep recalling conversations with loved ones. We explore new ways of artistic expression. We bond with people from all over the world. We experience relationships anew. We cherish small things. And finally, we wait for the light at the end of the tunnel. So we now want to, all these topics that I've just mentioned, we're now gonna discuss with the artists in front of the works. And I give the mic back to Andrea, and she will lead us through the tour now.
Thanks, Julia. Okay, so the first artist that we are going to look at is Wawrzyniec, and his digital painting is called Overcome the Distance. We understood his work as part of a theme that the curators called Betwixt and Between, just works that were started in New York and finished in the artist's home, or that deal with that transition, that somehow have their origin in the movement from New York back to wherever the artists were from. So Wawrzyniec, I'll pass the mic to you.
Sorry, should I say something?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Okay, so, I really don't like talking about my paintings, so it's quite difficult for me, but I would like to say that I think I'm still in New York, so it's a strange postcard, I think, because I'm still there in my mind. Because I started thinking about a series of paintings about New York, about people from New York and New Yorkers. It happened just in few days before I left New York. So this is the first painting of the series. And I'm going to paint some, a few more paintings which are connected with New York, which talk about people mainly in some kind of journey, trip, and that's why I talk about distance. So it's also some kind of game between words about distance, also about bodies and antibodies, and so that's why I sent you such postcards, and I think that's it.
One of the things I thought was really interesting about this artwork is the materials that you ended up using and how they're different from the materials that you normally use. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yes, because it's first digital painting, my digital painting. First time I used something like something called iPad, and it was quite old one. Because I started this painting during my quarantine, because when I came to Poland, to Warsaw, I had to stay at home for two weeks, and it was in Warsaw. I live in Krakow, so it was only way to prepare something, so to paint something. And it was quite difficult for me because I have to learn this this tool. So, but it was very interesting because when I was in New York, I thought that I will always use just oil paintings, and I'm not interested in digital work and tools. So it was very surprising for me to prepare this painting. So it was very interesting. So thank you for this idea for this postcard. So it's great.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to mention that it was because the airline lost all of his paints and brushes on the way home that he was forced to start using the digital materials. And I thought that was such a great metaphor in a way for Corona, that it really forces you to work.
I lost, that's right. I lost my, finally I got these brushes again, so I'm happy now, but it was quite difficult time for me. And
that must be a relief.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I think Julia is up next.
Yes, and we are moving right to the next work. We paired Baf's work with Joana, which is a sound piece, and she also sent us a text, a postcard text with the sound piece. I hope you can hear it right now. I'm gonna wait a little bit. Lulu, do you have your the?
Hello, because the sound doesn't come from my my laptop. I would suggest like people to go to the platform to hear the sound.
Yeah, well, we have some limits, unfortunately, in this virtual opening today. But we're gonna share the link to the exhibition in the chat, and we invite all of you to, of course, also explore it by yourself. But I can quickly explain Joana's work and then invite her to talk about it herself. She recorded sounds from the A train in New York. I'm sure you're all familiar with it, and mixed it with sounds from her hometown in Lisbon. And so for her, it was the mashup of different sounds creates a sense of longing for a time when she could still travel freely. And in this sense, the sound can still travel freely, but we cannot. And what I find interesting is that, and also what she told me, that usually we get so sometimes even annoyed by the sound of the train, but now we long for it somehow. And I'm gonna pass the mic to Joana now to talk about it a little bit.
Hi, hello everyone. So I didn't want to do any image. I didn't feel like I had enough distance from what was happening. So then I started thinking about this few recordings that I usually did while I was riding the A train. And it has to do with, longing, like missing something that was so ordinary. And I think that's so paradigmatic of the situation, that you are constrained in your house and you feel you miss the ordinary things. And I thought about like how the A train, just the noise of the train, could be a reflection of that, of something that you not even notice that is there. And so I made a piece using those few recordings and some of my music that I pre-recorded, and it's like 16 or 15 minutes long, and it goes through also for me it's like I try to go into the individual experience of riding a train, although like it's a collective individual, but because everybody was on their phones and you're still now on your phone. And one thing that I noticed, and also when I did then I heard a few recordings, that you could hear the game sounds of the people that were playing on the train. So the music is also done with that kind of fantasy of getting into people's life in the train and that meaning getting into their phone and just the music. I wanted it to travel as it could be, like I say in the text, like a text message that just goes from, it's a flux, and sometimes it just gets stuck into what people are saying. So and I addressed it to Gabriela that she was my housemate in there, and I still have like 1 week in quarantine with her. So yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, now I think we're going to Maya's piece. Words for Vases. And with Maya's work, this was one I really regretted not being able to see in person because it's an acrylic on canvas and is made in a very painterly way. And that is the kind of work that usually really benefits from in-person viewing. But it fits into this theme of traveling between, because she started it in New York City and then had to roll it up, transport it to Montreal where she finished it. And then it undergoes even another process of translation as it migrates from painting into a digital image. So she uses abstract painting, she told me in a conversation, as a method of discovery, a way to realize unconscious metaphors. So this central harlequin-like figure, although it's genderless, it can be seen as the self-portrait of the artist caught between two places or two experiences in this kind of in-between space. So I'll give it over to Maya now to speak about the piece.
Hi. Yeah, so like Andrea said, one thing about painting on canvas and being able to move really easily from place to place is you have the opportunity to kind of like access it in different environments really easily. So by working on it in a lot of different like situations, as I was moving from New York to Montreal back to BC, my thought process is changing also, and it's easy to kind of like try and experiment with how that would translate visually in like a painterly way, and how the whole painting kind of like evolves through the different states that I'm in as well. Yeah, and just sort of like it was about how you can not really control the circumstances, and like this was really just kind of a way to try and decipher how I was feeling, and the idea of like past and future, how they're kind of like become to this place that you don't really have a lot of control over, gets translated in terms of painting, I suppose, if that makes sense. Yeah, and I like what Andrea said about how, I mean, this is a pretty big painting, and to see it shrunken down kind of like a postcard is pretty interesting for me, I guess. I think that's it.
Okay, that's good. I also want to encourage you to check the placards that come up when you click on the images, because we have Maya's postcard that she wrote down there. So you don't need to read it all now, but the way she works really intermingles language and image, right, Maya? And
Yeah.
she kind of writes and paints at the same time.
Yeah. A lot of the process is kind of like, I'll always be writing while I'm painting, and it kind of, all these ideas get brought up, and trying to find a connection between the literal expression and visual expression, and how they kind of like start to interpret each other in the process of doing both at the same time.
Yeah, so her work definitely continues in the virtual placard thing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maya.
Yeah.
Okay, so next is Isabella.
Yeah, I am glad to introduce the contemplation topic, which is the moment when we finally arrive at home and, forced into quarantine, we find ourselves exploring our homes as if they were unknown places. And so the journey is no longer the exploration of, as Julia said, the exotic place, but something much more intimate, introspective, and almost meditative. So this is the approach that Dominique Oudry used for his work. Dominique Oudry gazed at his own private space, exploring and meditating on simple things and moments. And finally, he found a kind of fixed vitality that originates from the observation. And I was impressed to receive this work, because the first question was, okay, so is still life still alive? Both because the vitality and also because it's rare, quite rare to find still life in contemporary art. And so I really enjoyed this kind of rarefied atmosphere where lines, shadows, and shape chase each other in an highly balanced composition made up of pure contemplation, I would say. And it generates a kind of metaphysic of the everyday objects, which is, as Dominique said to me, it's inspired by Giorgio Morandi, who is the greatest solitary painter of still life, is Italian. And so maybe Dominique would like to say something about this. Dominique?
Dominique, don't forget to
Dominique,
unmute.
you have to unmute your unmute yourself, like
too loud, or?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Okay,
first of all, I want to thank you, Isabella, for your kind words, and you said almost everything I can say about this photo. But what I try to do is to make a postcard from home. So this is a situation in the place I live, and because I have to go back from New York, so I was sitting inside my apartment in Switzerland, and I tried to do something like a still life, and this still life also refers a little bit about simplicity and about simple things, and maybe also about kind of pureness, and also about poor. This is something kind of poor, simple things. And because I'm thinking also this will be maybe the future for us to get a little bit more on the simple things of life, because that was actually also this kind of experience, because this was also somehow a nice experience in these days, because everything was so kind of quiet and so also slow down. And my experience after these weeks in New York, running around, and then all of a sudden being stopped and in this kind of tranquility, it was almost like being in a kind of weird dream somehow. So this is a little bit also about this, and I have maybe also to say something about the size, because I really thought about the size of a postcard. So now it's in this virtual exhibition space, it looks like a huge work, but we have to think about this as a postcard, actually.
Yeah, once we found ourselves, we curators find ourselves in this space, we realized that the postcard size wouldn't work, and but actually the postcard was a metaphor. So, but I can understand your.
So, but I did a postcard. But another question I have: so this kind of space, is this a space you created, or is this a kind of space you can use? And how do this really work? Because it looks like an industrial building, white cube, something, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible to choose to select different kind of spaces on this platform, Kunstmatrix, and we choose this kind which was fitting. I mean, we were in love with this space. Just it reminded us a kind of LA gallery.
So it's a very interesting experience also for me, because it's the first time I saw a work in kind of a virtual space, and it will be also nice to participate maybe for another exhibition with other works. So thank you.
We'll see what happens in the future. Now let's go ahead with our tour. And thank you, Dominique. And I think now is the connection topic, and Julia can introduce us.
Yes. So we found that Dominique's and Mashael's works also go really well next to each other, because Mashael's works is a video work, and again, I invite you to watch it by yourself later. And it also talks, it's a video postcard, obviously, and she asks, where were you when the world slowed down? And she gives an answer from a future perspective in this video. So it is a fictitious investigation into our immediate surroundings as we stay at home while dreaming of future journeys. And so the film combines found footage with moving images of hand gestures that invoke stillness and calm in an otherwise chaotic environment. And again, like I said, we paired this together with Dominique's because we also saw this introspection, stillness theme in it, and also solitude and intimacy. And and that's probably something we all long for in these stressful times. And yeah, unfortunately, I don't think Mashael has joined us already. So we cannot hear from herself, but maybe she will join us later. So I think we can move on.
Well, I think the next is Erik Sikora with Andrea leading us.
I loved the humor in this one. We grouped this under connection because there were several artists that really spoke about actually many artists spoke about maintaining connection during this time, whether they were placed under this theme or not. But Erik's approached it with a particularly incisive kind of humor. And it reminded me of being in any number of large cities in the past decade and entering a park and seeing the guy holding the big cardboard sign that says free hugs. That was such a mainstay of street performance at one point. And obviously that's not possible anymore. There are no more free hugs. So instead he's giving out free yawns. One of the things I love about this piece is that it actually makes me yawn every time I look at it, because as Erik mentioned, the yawn is a kind of benign contagion. when you see somebody yawn, it also makes you yawn, and it can be passed between screens. So this is another work that I would also encourage you to look at the virtual placard, because we have his kind of very lyrical postcard posted there. But I don't want to say anything that Erik might want to say himself, so I'll pass the mic on to him.
Thank you, Andrea. Hello, everybody. Yeah, as you said, I like the idea of yawning as a contagious thing, and I tried to see the contagious things as something positive, because everybody is talking about virus, and I tried to find some other contagious things, which is healthy, and which is and it also working digitally or virtually, so you can infect by my yawning through the screen. I don't know how it is possible, but it is it's like not, yeah, it's just an idea which is contagious. And also one thing is, for me, is important that maybe this kind of boredom inside our zones, inside our homes, is some kind of luxury, and we can enjoy just yawning at home. And the second thing, that scientific exploration of yawning is like to cool your brain with the air. So maybe it's also kind of like challenge to cool the brain. So I would like to pass all these things to you and to spread it, and at the same time, maybe I'm interested in some kind of like, it's not about photography, it's something like challenge which is not yet viral. Maybe I just want to give you an idea for challenge, but not to be this viral guy which yawn every day. But maybe I will try to interrupt this vernissage, this opening, by yawning and to contage you. So thank you.
Thank you, Erik. Is Theo, is that who we have next with Julia?
Yeah, speaking of connection, this is the turn of Lulu, Meng, and her loved ones map, interactive map, which when I received it, it made me reflect on how the representation of the word has changed during the COVID-19, because the map that previously used to represent geography, or we used to refer to the map to plan a trip, now has become like a blooming of red dots that represent the outbreak of the virus. So there's plenty of these COVID-19 maps, and the most updated is the Johns Hopkins University one that inspired this work. And that's a kind of a map that dehumanizes, I will say, the world, and measures it and measures the borders in light of the virus and the destruction that it carries. And in the face of this vision of the virus, Lulu Meng proposes a more humanistic, positive, and constructive vision of the globe. So with her interactive map, she's asking us to contribute and to indicate the geographic location of our loved ones by putting locating them with a symbol of an heart. So I really enjoyed this work because it's dynamic, it's potentially never-ending, as well as the action of love that generated it. Because Lulu said to me that this is a kind of mission. And so I will maybe Lulu can say something more precise, and maybe she can explain us how to join this map.
Hi,
Lulu is in New York now. Yeah.
Hi, thank you, Isabella. Thank you for the introducing my map. And so I'm here in New York right now. Originally, I came from Taiwan. So at the end of January, when the outbreak started, that's the time actually I came back here from Taiwan. So as the pandemic happening and the confirmed cases are growing here in US, I've been thinking about this traveling and from Asia and then back to the States, and then people I know and I love around the world, and also seeing the map of this coronavirus map is all the growing numbers. That just made me feel alone and a little bit depressing. So I want to make something that's a positive, and also to share to others that there are hopes and love and cares around us all around in the world, but not just all these red dots of confirmed cases on the map. So I started from making my own map. I map the people that I care and love in a map. And starting from there and developing from there, I now inviting people to also share the people that they love and care around the world, no matter where they are. And then I put in this people's location in the map, and then to create. So here on the screen right now, you see this gift is changing, because that's just a different people's map. And then it's growing and it's getting more. For me, it's a really positive visual presentation that how we are all connected, and then no matter where we are on the same map, and this map of Earth. And I can visualize the connection, and also the Isabella just mentioned, I see this as a mission, because I almost see this as a way for me, my way to fight coronavirus. I'm not a medical worker, I cannot save life, but then I believe there's other ways to bring positivity to others. So I hope my ultimate goal is I hope the people in this map that I'm making would surpass the coronavirus confirmed cases. So I would love to invite you to participate in this project. And if you, on the screen here, there's a link. You can read more of the description here. And also you can see the interactive map, the live interactive map here. But here is how you can participate in the project, and there's more description there. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Lulu. So please, this is an invitation for everybody. Please join this map and make it growing up, so that we can draw the outbreak of positivity. So we are almost at the end of our exhibition. There is just one topic left, which is...
We have forgot Theo.
Who?
Theo.
I think...
Yeah, Julia was going to introduce.
Oh yeah,
this,
yeah,
so
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So this is another visual letter to a friend by Theo Betin, and the title is "In Uncertain Times, Say Hello to the Cat." I hope he can maybe tell a little bit more about this title. And so it shows how we can stay connected during times of quarantine.
and close borders, despite the fact that our movements from one place to another may be restricted. And what we see is a video of a car journey through a tunnel and of a text addressed to a friend, through which Theo is dealing with connectivity in times of isolation and the longing to travel. That's how I see it. And yes, at the end, we finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. So now I would like to hear from Theo a little bit more.
Hello. Thank you for this. Thank you very much. I want to thank Stephen, who is watching maybe this event, and whom this postcard is addressed to, in fact, because I went to New York for a 2 months residency on a specific topic, and finally I stayed 10 days, and the day after my arrival, the borders shut down and everything started to close. So at the beginning, I'm a sculptor, so I'm more comfortable with objects than with photography or digital works. But with my roommate, Stephen, that I just met when I arrived, we start to walk every day for a long walk and look at architecture and object and this weird relationship of being in the street but being stuck by all this building around you, like start to asking who is trapped inside or outside anyway. And finally, when I left, we continue to walk on both of our sides, and we continue to exchange pictures, and I wanted to thank him for that, because it was really unexpected, but it was a really good move, and I think it's a bit this what is it about? Sorry for my English.
It's okay, thank you. Okay, now we move on to the last topic.
Thank you.
Yeah, the last topic and the last fil rouge that connects three works, it's the idea of critical reading of the world, which is something that important to unlock some devices given for accepted, like dynamics that are expressions of power in the small and big things of everyday life, and that affect our behaviors and our minds. So the first artist I would like to speak about, to tell about in this topic is Faten Gaddes. She is from Tunisia, and she's living in New York now. She's not, unfortunately, she's not here present in this call. Her work is entitled Heroes, and it's digital photography and self-portrait. And she, first of all, I would like to say that she practiced in French is détournement, which is like a twist of the iconic "Keep Calm and Carry On" that was a motivational poster produced by the British government in in preparation of the World War, the Second World War. And it was an idea to keep people calm and don't panic. So Faten customized this iconic symbol, and just to explicitly express her mood during the lockdown. And beside these posters, she placed self-portraits of herself, surrounded by a variety of household and items and cleaning products that are keeping us safe in our fight against COVID-19. So in fact, they become heroes now. So it's a kind of observation of what is around you. And I would say also with a kind of Andy Warhol approach, she voids these objects of their original purposes and makes them icons of our time. And maybe, yeah, okay. So since Faten is not present, but she's sending us greetings, we can go to the next, because there are other ways to read critically our world, as Alexandra Crouwers did, and Julia will introduce her work. Thank you.
Yes, so here we see Alexandra's work, and it's a GIF and also a website. You can find the link also in the description. And the work is called Complicit, and it talks about a term called solastalgia, which is a form of ecological grief, describing emotional or existential distress caused by environmental shifts, including the loss of species or habitat due to climate change. So it's a sense of homesickness when you are still at home, when you no longer recognize the patterns and contours of your formerly stable surroundings. Alexandra, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes, maybe it's better if you talk about it. I don't want to say something wrong about it.
You can never say something wrong about art, I think. It's impossible. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Residency Unlimited, for giving me a deadline, or two, actually. That always helps. The GIF is embedded in my artist talk that I made last week, or a week and a half ago. And I am trying with the best intentions to help us deal with this grief, with this loss. And in my opinion, my first initial idea was that we have to accept that it's us. Just accept that it's us as a human species that are doing this to Earth. So I'm not trying to be a party spoiler or something, but it's us. So and then I made this GIF, which is also a website and can also develop into a video work by itself. But it becomes all very clear, well, more or less, if you watch the artist talk I did, which is also, you can find it on the Residency Unlimited website. But then last week, a friend of mine, and she's a psychologist, said the worst thing you can do when you're trying to help people is to give them this feeling of guilt, because that paralyzes people. So I am actually trying to help in a way, as a character, as an artist, but as a character of nostalgia or something, but I'm doing it wrong. And I also like that idea. So this GIF is trying to help you, but it's trying to help you by feeling guilty. And apparently that's not the right strategy according to psychologists. Sorry about that.
No, you can't. You are holding us accountable for the things we're doing, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
everyone.
we also sometimes
it's
you need this wake-up call.
Yeah, but it's a shared responsibility. It's also a connection. It's just not, it's a connection we have to accept, I think. Anyway, that's it.
Thank you. All right.
Thank
Last
you.
one.
We are at the end of the exhibition with the last work, which is from Matthias Liechti. I hope I didn't mispronounce your name. Sorry if I did. So he made a critical reading of the work too, I would say, focusing on those things, small and big and in everyday life, that are infiltrating our behaviors. And Matthias suggested me the idea of microphysics of power by Michel Foucault. And he focused on the exit sign, which is typically a device that leads people to the location of the closest emergency egress. But it is never clear, though, where the exit way may take you. Somewhere outside, it doesn't matter where. It might even be a kind of empty space sometimes. So this is an intrinsic gap, which is intensified by Matthias. And he does like an obsessive repetition. And in this repetition, the sign is nullified. It loses its connotation of dangerousness, and it creates confusion and becomes an uncontrollable impulse. Sorry, my pronounce. So yeah, the artist wrote a beautiful postcard, a beautiful text, which goes with the work.
I just saw that Mashael joined.
Oh, cool.
Mashael, all the artists had the chance to talk about the works. Do you also want to say something quickly?
Yeah, hello everyone. Sorry, I was having connection errors. Hope everyone's doing well and staying safe.
Yes, we're already drinking. We have opened the exhibition officially, so now we're finally allowed to drink. And we were moving on to some question answers, but we missed you and the tour, so maybe you want to talk a little bit about your work now.
Yeah, sure. I was really thinking about how we would be looking at this time in retrospect. So rather than being in the moment right now, thinking about how we would be thinking about it in the future. So in a mix of kind of poetry and visual poetry, I wanted to pose the same questions that I'm imagining someone in the future to ask us or me about how we were dealing and how we were taking time to kind of recharge and see things differently. It's really just about, time and how this is a very time sensitive thing that we're dealing with, and it's making us very kind of sensitive to the way time passes and the way that it can manifest. So yeah, I mean, that's all I have to say right now.
Thank you. I would say we share the link and call the exhibition officially opened. And also what we usually do is drink at an opening. So I hope you all brought your coffees or hard liquor. So cheers everyone. Thank you again, RU staff and all the artists and Andrea and Isabella. Yeah, let's drink. Cheers.